Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Hello, so as you've heard, I'm Bhante Rakkhita Samanera. And today we're going to have a look at the topic of harmony through the Dhamma. Now it was in northern India at Isipatana Deer Park that they had the first turning of the wheel of the law. That's the Dhamma Chakra Pavatana Sutta, where the Buddha started his teaching with the first 5 ascetics and giving that freely. He was not changing his teaching, although he slightly evolved his styles of teaching. The teaching stayed consistent through those 45 years of teaching, and up until this time, it continues. Harmony is sometimes broken by quarrels. So there was an example where there were monks who had been sharing space. They had group followings. One of them, that master, one was teaching the scriptures. He was teaching suttas and he was very knowledgeable about them. Thus, he could get a strong following from his monks. They were very, very devoted and very, very faithful to him. Now, there was another master and he was training in the training rules in the Patimokkha, and of which there are very many. There are more than 227 rules when you go on into the very, very minor, subtle aspects as well. So those rules can be a kind of food for someone who's a control freak. For someone who's too severe and loves power, that is kind of obsessive, compulsive style of fierce and shaming sort of behavior. A person like that can be missing the point of the teachings by miles. They can be really out of touch with the meaning and the common sense of the Buddhist teachings. In any time, whether it's now or it was then, human nature has fairly much stayed the same. And we saw in this case where these 2 groups of monks were in a monastery and therefore they were sharing the bathrooms there. Everyone has to go from time to time. But there is an etiquette for doing that. There are even some rules which say how you should do it. People come from different areas of India and they come from different family styles, ways of doing things. Or they're simply just forgetful. And there was a system for filling up the buckets of water as you left or leaving it for the next person, and they do it. But this caused a quarrel, just put it that way. And this quarrel didn't just sort of come out as a one shout or a complaint to the dinner table. It went on and on and on and on. And it seemed that the discipline master, the master of the rules, was determined to humiliate the other monk. And he wanted him to do a big confession in front of everyone else. And that he hadn't done this toilet flushing. So it would seem pretty pathetic, let's face it. But people are people. That's not the fault of the Buddha, and it's not the fault of their Vinaya, which is there just to help things to sort out that they run smoothly amongst people. And so the Buddha heard about this and he came over. He had a word with them and he said, settle down, try not to be stuck on me, like my way's right, you're wrong, my way's right, you're wrong, and I'm going to make you look wrong. And you're going to have to acknowledge that I am right in front of everyone else. And so it escalated up and up. The Buddha said, no, we don't do like that. We should try to consider the other person's point of view and not try to be on our own proud high horse about it all and I'm super right, you're super wrong. That's not the way. That's not the harmonious way. So the Buddha did that, and he thought that should be it. I've explained how to calm things down so they can go off now on their way now. And we all should be able to get back to our peaceful practice and meditation. But no, he had gone back to his place, and he soon got the news, no, they're even worse than before. The words have been wounding, very quarrelsome. They're blaming each other, and neither of them is going to back down as well. So, well, this is the way of quarrels, aren't they? Isn't it? So no one's prepared to be saying that they're wrong, and everyone's sure that they're in their own fixed way for years. I'm right, I'm right, and I'm right. And I was all wrong, they were wrong. All along they were wrong. So what happened was that the Buddha came back and tried to talk about it. One monk even stood up right in front of the Buddha and said, hey, you keep out of this. This has nothing to do with you. You just go off and carry on your meditation. We can sort this out. We don't need your help. We're not children. We're grown adults. And there was a stunned silence of this. No one had spoken to the Buddha in this way. So it was really like a display of how petty and silly things had become. So the Buddha calmly picked up his bowl, picked up his robe, and picked up his bag and just walked away, just having nothing to do with it. So he left them to it. And they ended up losing all of their support from the local town of Kosambi. People in that city had heard about it. So by that point, they were not going to get any food. So that might not work. Okay, we'll all calm down then. We'll sort it out. And here we are, 2,500 or 2,600 years later, still talking about it. So it just shows how pathetic human nature can be. But the Buddha went to his alms round, and then he went up into the forest outside Kosambi. And there was Kimbila and Urada and Nandiya, monks who were there, and they invited him in. And it must be very hurtful to see, after you've tried so carefully to nurture this beautiful thing, that's the Sangha, into existence, just to see this petty quarreling going on. So it must have been disheartening somewhat. But the Buddha understood human nature. And then it was so nice for him to come across these three monks with no quarreling, and they invited him in. They took his bowl, they offered him water, and showed him where the bathroom is, and then cleared the place for him to sit. And he said, well, how are you going? Are you going okay? And they said, we are so happy. It's a blessing to be amongst these other monks, and it makes us so happy. It is so rewarding. So thank you so much for setting up the Sangha in this kind of way. And the Buddha asked, how do you keep harmony? What's the way that you monks are doing that? Tell me. What's the way that you keep peace? So the monks explained, well, we think carefully about each other. Next, we act very kindly to each other. We talk with sweet words. We talk with kind words. We speak gently, sincerely, and clearly and directly. And when the others are not around, I will do anything I can to make the place nice for when they come back. And if there's any extra food, then also I'll put some from my bowl to one side, or put some in an empty bowls to one side and share some of my food in there. If they want anything, and if they don't get much food and they come back, they'll be able to have some. So it's just lovely, considerate care. A complete contrast to the other selfish monks who were all on their ego and their pride and determined to be sort of humiliating and gain, a game of one-upmanship, none of them backing down. The Buddha went off and lived alone for some months in the peace of the forest. So there are the ways of humans, and this is the way of harmony that the Buddha was saying. Now, this is a Sangha. This is the right way to be. And those are the correct principles for remaining in harmony with other people that you're living with. This can be applying to lay life. It's not just only for monks in forests and so on, but it's for people in all walks of life. They can follow those rules or guidelines. Like all of the guidelines which were laid down, they're really meant to be taken just as a guide. There was a good story about a Zen teacher, and he had a very clever student who was with him, who'd found so many loopholes, so many holes and so many loopholes, catches and faults in the suttas. And in the rules, his faith had completely fallen apart. The student went to see his teacher, and the teacher knew his mind, and he knew also his temperament. This Zen teacher had a favorite dog, and he was with the dog. He says, "Let me show you something." So he threw the stick for his dog to come to fetch to him. It got the stick in his mouth, and the master took it. And then he said, "Now I'm going to ask the dog to fetch the moon." So he said, "Fetch, fetch." And he pointed at the moon. He said, "Fetch the moon, fetch the moon." And then he said to the student, he says, "You understand?" And the student says, "Not really. No, I don't." Well, the master said, "Well, where is the dog looking?" And he said, "Well, he's looking at your finger." And the master says, "Exactly. You're only pointing the way as teachers, and you shouldn't confuse the action that's pointing the way to the goal, to the real goal, which is really nirvana." And at that point, the young monk understood clearly. What the teacher was trying to explain is not to get caught up on those rules and regulations, not to get caught up on the suttas themselves, hair splitting about translations and so on, but to listen to the common sense and the meaning in the original intention and the purpose of it. There's another Zen, nice little proverb, and it says that in matters of practicing religion, they said, some people are content just to chew the menu rather than to eat the food. It says it all. We should go gently. We shouldn't be fighting and arrogant and contentious in that way. The Buddha in the Dhammapada talks about moving harmoniously, moving like a bumblebee as it goes through a garden or through where the area has flowers. They just hover and they just gently take pollen and they'll move on without disturbing the flowers. They don't barge in and say, "Right, we're here, get out of the way." They don't do like that. It's very, very gentle. When you see also monks moving through an area and where they're getting alms food, that's the meaning of this. They are just light. They don't stop and they don't become a fixture of the family. They don't sort of move in. They don't spend hours there and boring the people. They just simply take the alms, then leave a blessing gracefully from the flowers, as it were, and then move on. The Buddha's 6 ways to achieve and maintain harmony. So there is a guidance for us, and that is we should share space together. We should share essentials as well, happily, not greedily and selfishly, trying to keep everything. We should observe similar and the same precepts in harmony together. Similar as it's not always like exactly you have to do it my way and I have to do it your way. That's too harsh as well. You have to sort of blend along with each other and allow for personal differences. And then there are ways of using words of harmony, words that are gentle and are nice to hear, and that are full of empathy, full of understanding, and that other person's needs, of their moods and emotions and so on. We should share insights and understandings together regularly and talk about this. I understood, for example, I noticed something that happened this morning. After washing the bowls, I noticed this thing about, and then share what we have understood about life, behavior, our perceptions, and that also helps. We should respect one another. It's very, very important, and not allow this mood to come up that expresses, I'm right, you're wrong. You shouldn't be here. I should be here. I'm the one who's the best in all of this. That is kind of arrogant, that dominant, competitive, self-righteous and jealous style of thinking. So those monks said that they lived together like milk and water and in perfect harmony. And the Buddha described those 6 rules. 1, sharing space. 2, sharing essentials. 3, observing precepts in the same way. 4, using words of harmony. 5thly, sharing those different insights and respect each other's differences, not being self-righteous. And so these are those 6 ways. Harmony in an office. And there are other ways that we can also look at if we're working in an office. We can say thank you. We can notice little things. We can avoid gossip. We can keep an open door policy to others so that they can come to see us. We can create a team atmosphere rather than a competitive, individualistic atmosphere. And we can always offer help. So those are general guidelines. There are other things. Meditating regularly. This is one of the really big ones. And learn to breathe smoothly. Breathe. One of my teachers says, your breath should glide smoothly like a snake across water. A water snake glides easily, curvily like this, not like a galloping horse, he says. This is also a nice analogy. We can remember to do that mindful breathing, just taking time out, just breathe and pause. Ways to achieve harmony. One of the most important ways to achieve harmony is to meditate regularly, meditate often. Next, to stop, to think before acting. Next, surround yourself as far as possible with a harmonious environment, the calm lighting, the peacefulness of the sound, the nature, the space, the privacy, the pleasing arrangement and items. Next, clean up the mess you see and that you make. Next, harmonious companionship. And lastly here, doing good deeds selflessly within your means. It is not easy for people to do sometimes. We have to settle down and make time to settle down. One of my teachers from Vietnam says this beautiful story about when he was in France. There were some Vietnamese refugee children who were put under his guidance and protection. Quite a lot of people had tried to escape death by traveling by boat to Thailand, boat people, and they had gone over to France to take and taken care there. The teacher was a bit worried about them. Could the very young children fit in? But they managed to be able to fit in very easily, incredibly smoothly, and make friends amazingly easily, learning the language fast. So some of these friends, a group of 5, had come up to his cottage in the forest up on the hillside, and they were going to go and play out on the hillside together. So he gave them some drinks. They had just climbed up the hill and they were getting, pretty hot. It was France can be pretty hot in the summer season. Up in that area, they grew a lot of apples. So here they'd crushed them and made them into apple juice. So there was a big bottle of this clear apple juice. And he poured this big glass container of apple juice into drinking glasses, one by one, until it came to the 5th child. And by now it was the bottom of the bottle, and there were many particles and other bits and pieces, and it could be quite cloudy. And he poured it out. The 5th little girl, she was only 5 or 6 years old. She said, "Non, non, monsieur. It is cloudy and disgusting." She called him Granddad Monk. Grand-père, grand-père moi. So then she wouldn't have anything to do with it and left the drink. So all the other children, they all drank their clear drinks. And then they went off out. And then after a little bit of playing outside, the 5th girl came back. This one little girl came back. She wanted to get a drink of water at the sink, but she couldn't reach the faucet, the water tap, to pour out drinking water. She was too small. And so she called the monk, "Grand-père moi, grand-père moi, aidez-moi, aidez-moi, help me, help me." And she wanted to drink. So he said, "Why, yes, for sure. But why don't you drink that glass of apple juice?" "Ugh," she said, pulling her face. "I dislike this horrible cloudy drink." So he said, "Are you sure?" She said, "Oui, yes, really." And then she caught sight of the apple juice glass where she had left it. "Oh." So she looked at it, surprised, and she said, "Oh." Sure enough, there was a glass of absolutely pure, clear apple juice. So she drank. Can you imagine an English person speaking French? It's very funny, right? So she drank this clear apple juice drink, and lo and behold, it is perfect. "What?" she said. "That's very strange. That's very strange indeed. How come before it's disgusting and now it's very beautiful?" And she went, "Oh, yes, I understand." The monk said, "No, no, you just leave it for half an hour and it will go perfectly clear." And so she replied, "Oh, I understand. The glass of apple juice wants to be like Grandpa Monk with his meditation." He said, "Well, yes, that's very, very true. Actually, it's not quite true, no. Grandpa Monk wants to be like the apple juice." I had a phone call in the night with my mother. And she said to me, "I've got some bad news. Your brother, he's been killed. He's died in an accident. There's been an accidental death. While he was boating out on his boat with his two daughters and two friends. They were fishing. They were in a heavy river that was very wavy as it meets the ocean. The boat had turned upside down, and the two daughters, very young, 6 years old and 8 years old, had got to the shore of the riverbank safely. He didn't make it, and he died. And drowning is very painful. You have the experience of water gushing in, and it's a very painful death as well. So I really also, I'm sure that one of the saving graces of this is that I'm pretty sure he knew that his daughters had already made it to the safety of the shore. It would have also been very difficult if it had been the other way around, that his daughters had drowned and he'd been safe for himself to live on and live with himself afterwards. This is also where Buddhists are always advocating for not killing. You know, obviously fishing is a sport, and also not just to get food. You're killing for enjoyment. In that incident, so while I love my young brother, I do recognize the wisdom in Buddhism there that protects us from harmful adventures or misadventures in this case. I'm going to take a pause there and wish you all very well. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Tzu Chi have this, the Master Cheng Yen told a story about someone called Mr. Wu, who was in Taiwan, and he loved to fish. But he loved to fish with a passion. He would throw multiple large hooks in and actually into the water and then drag them around. And as they dragged, they would catch many fish. Then he would pull the hooks out, and with many of those fish twisting and turning on those hooks. So there was blood everywhere. But he would feel satisfied at that time. He'd feel really joyful. Good, look, I've got so many, and I'm going to get some more again. Hey, look, I've got more and more. He never minded the distress of the fish. And then sometimes after a while of doing this, he was having a barbecue. And he was cooking up fish and eating fish, and then a fish bone got caught right in his throat. He started choking, gagging, and he was hospitalized. He went to 3 different hospitals. He also tried folk remedies and traditional medicines to deal with this problem. But he didn't manage to do anything. And then one day, he made this asseveration. He made this promise. He made a vow. The vow he made is, I will stop eating and killing all fish and meat. He made a vegetarian asseveration. In Buddhism, we have this choice. It's not compulsory. But he did make this asseveration at that time, I will stop all killing of life. Sure enough, within a very short space of time, the fish bone was released, and he was able then to eat solid food. And from then on, he did vegetarian vows, also recycling, cleaning of rivers and oceans, recycling work. But he didn't have any more problems with this and was able to eat normally. There's another story about a water bird. I'll use the name, the pelican, called the crafty pelican. It's actually translated the crafty heron, but herons have a small mouth and pelicans have a big one. It's one of those Jataka stories. In the story, he has this sneaky idea. There were many fish in their pond. So he plotted a plan. You know how the birds stand on one leg, don't they? Well, sometimes you have to put your foot down with pelicans. Well, anyway, there's a pelican. They've got this big bag under their mouth. It's like a shopping bag under the beak, and they keep the fish in there. So, and then before eating them. So he was one day sort of standing by the edge, watching the waters, the deep part. A lot of fish were over there, and he was just watching the pond. So a crab came up and said to him, hey, pelican, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then he says, well, I'm just thinking. And the crab said, oh yeah, what do you think about? You don't normally stand just thinking. Is there any problem? So pelican slyly looks back and says, no, not really. I mean, there may be for people like you, but no, I'm just fine. Thank you. Crab says, well, what do you mean? Pelican said, no, well, there's this fisherman that I know. There's some fishermen coming to this pond pretty soon. But hey, it's nothing to do with me, not my business. I mean, I know they like fish. I know they like crab, but, it's just not my problem. It's not my business. Ooh. So the crab went off sideways. And then he went off. Crab started to talk with some of the other creatures, and word of this rumor got to the head of the fish, the king of the fish. And the head of the fish came over and asked, hey, what's all this? Somebody said that the pelican had said that there are some people coming over here. Is that right? Is there any truth in this? We should get to safety. Is there any way that, is there anything that we can do? I mean, we got to get out of here. We've got to get out. We're in problems. We could all get killed. We're all going to end up dead. So the pelican said, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I could help you out. I mean, I did hear that it was me. I know for sure, yes. But hey, come on, it's not until the end of the week. So you've got plenty of time. But I mean, if I can be of any help and any assistance, I know there's another pond that I've seen from flying up high up, and it's bigger than this one. Quite nice, plenty of room. And there's plenty of room under my bill and my mouth here. If you want, I'll quite happily get you out and help you out. And anything I can do for an old friend like you guys, yeah, for sure. And the king of the fishes said, oh, you've saved us, our savior. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. If you want to start, right away, because, end of the week, I mean, we've got a lot of fish. So, I mean, if you want to give us a hand, yes, please. So the pelican said, well, okay, I'll stay here to open my mouth if you guys just want to jump in. And the king of the fish says, okay. So the king of the fish said, okay, here we go. Fish, jump in, you're going. Okay, come on. Form a line. Okay, there you go. Here we go. Wearing a mask. Okay. So they get into the pelican's mouth until the whole sack is full. So the pelican takes off saying, I'll be back in a bit. So off he goes. He goes. And of course, he just goes to a big flat rock to eat them. He's a fish eater. He eats fish. So he flies up high and then glides down, and he lands on this flat rock. And he scoops them out and then he smashes them. Bam, bam, bam. kills all the fish, and then like, yeah, munch, 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 gulp, 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 eats all the dead fish. He leaves all the bones scattered about, blood, and so then goes back. And the waiting fish would say, thank you so much. They're now in safety. We're really pleased that you can help us. Kingfish called out, come on, any more coming? Any more coming? So the pelican does this back and forth for some days. And then one day the crab comes up and says to pelican, well, those fishermen catch crabs as well, you know. I mean, they do eat crabs. And they barbecue them and everything. So, I mean, would you consider... And at that, pelican says, you don't even need to ask me. Of course you can. Of course you can. You know you can. Come on, jump up. Grab on with your claws. Jump in, or even just jump inside if you want. So crab jumps inside and you know, sits there. So pelican flies up and over. And when they're high up, the crab looks down. He looks down and he sees the flat rock and all of those scattered fish bones and fresh blood all over there. And he realizes, aha, I know what you're doing. And so he pretends not to have seen. And so the pelican comes down to land. He lands down there and the crab says, it's okay, you can just drop me off just right here. Okay, I'll go the rest of the way. And I can see that pond just over there. So thank you very much. You've been so kind. Then he gets out of the pelican's mouth. And then he turns around and he just grabs the pelican's neck and he says, I know what you're up to. You're kidnapping. And then you're eating alive all of the fish from the place. So now you're going to pay the punishment. And then he kills him. He gives him the death sentence. And then after a while, crab returns back to the pond by the long route on foot, back to the other pond, sideways. And then he tells the king of the fishes that it was all a dirty trick. And the moral of the story is what goes around comes around. And that if you do bad, you'll get bad. But remember, this is the Jatakas. This is actually before the Buddha became a Buddha and before he was perfect. So, so after that, there wasn't any much killing in the suttas. And you get quite a bit of that, though, in the these sort of revenge stories in the Jatakas. The Jatakas are quite cruel. They're a bit like cartoon cat and mouse stories. Lots of arguing, lots of quarreling, lots of revenge, fighting, and killing, actually. So in conclusion for our talk, good. So I'm just going to bring this to an end. So remember, harmony is from sweet speech, sincere speech, not deceptive speech like that, kind speech, gentle speech, clear and direct speech. Share with your people you live with what you like about them, how that they are beneficial to be around, in what ways, how harmonious you feel when you're with them, and how easy they are to live with. Share about their positive aspects like that. And if there are any problems that you can share. You can do your fair share also of the work. But you can always communicate, mostly, in most cases. Sometimes you can't communicate, you can't always sort things out, and then we have to take further measures, or if it's really more complicated. But as a general guideline, harmony can be found and maintained through these means, which is avoiding deceitful or lying speech, avoiding slander and talking bad about other people, talking in harsh, aggressive, sarcastic, nasty or shouting tones, and also avoiding just speaking nonsense, frivolous nonsense, because life is too short for gossip. And therefore, these are the 4 types of speech to be avoided if we don't want to disintegrate the harmony, the natural harmony that we have. So we try to nourish harmony, and therefore we avoid quarreling and we avoid all kinds of discord, and then we can live happily with other people and happily with ourselves. So with that, I'd like to pause our talk, and if there are any questions or comments, I invite you to add them. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Okay, now I'm going to make a blessing, which is from the tradition. So if you want to bear in mind all of your parents and relatives, and we will transfer merits to them. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me punyang asavakayang hotu. Idang me punyang nipanasa pachayo hotu. Mama punya bagang sabha satanang bhajemi. Te sabha me samang punya baga labantu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Sabitio vivachandu, saparogo venasatu. Mate pavatwantarayo sukidika yuko bhava. Abhivadana sili sanichang vutta pachayino. Jataro dhamma vadanti. Ayuwano sukhang balang.